Film fanatics, movie nerds, and cinephiles, welcome into the Last Video Store, your new home. I'm welcoming you in here. My name is Alexei Toliopoulos. I host this show where I talk to cool, interesting, funny, exciting, beautiful, stunning, gorgeous, I'm losing my mind, cool people about their favorite movies. On the show this week, we've got one of Australia's most prolific filmmakers, Kriv Stenders, who iconically made the modern classic Red Dog, but he's here today to talk about a new film, political thriller called The Correspondent. Now, producer M, it has felt like a long time coming getting Kriv Stenders on this show.
Yes.
I've even referenced him on episodes because I know he listens. I know he's a big listener of this podcast.
That's
he sent me
so
lovely
cool.
messages about the show. But there's been a few episodes where I've shouted his name out to let him know that I'm aware he's listening to the show.
Yeah, actually, I found him a few times out the back of the video store, banging to get in. So I'm glad that we finally unlocked the door.
Invite only, and the invite was sent out. Kriv has come in, and I'll say that I think this is an all-time episode of this podcast.
Agree.
He talked about his new movie beautifully, but also he picks out two proper Australian cult classic films that I think light needed to be illuminated on. One in particular is a film that I've almost done as the recommendation. I reckon there's been certain people go, oh, maybe I can finally say this. In fact, there might have been another episode very recently where I'll have chosen it as the pick because I was like, oh, I've got to recommend an Aussie person to this Aussie film to this person. I want to recommend something Aussie. And I keep thinking about that film. But that will be revealed in the show. But Kriv Stenders, awesome guy, so fun to talk with. His new film, The Correspondent, is a political thriller about the Peter Gresta fiasco. Let me give you a synopsis straight from the EPK, the Electronic Press Kit. As Australian war correspondent Peter Gresta, played by the wonderful Richard Roxburgh, arrives in Cairo to cover a reporter on Christmas leave, the political temperature is high. Abdel Fattah al-Sisi's military takeover of the Egyptian government is all but complete. Gresta is a veteran of Middle East conflict, is alert but not alarmed, but he's unaware of the depth of Sisi's hatred of his current employer, Al Jazeera, for its reporting of the coup. From the moment he steps foot in Egypt, a plan is set in motion to arrest Gresta and his crew. What unfolds is a descent into the Kafkaesque nightmare in which Gresta is seen as a collateral damage in the war on truth. So it's a film about modern journalism that I think is pretty important when it's speaking to the stuff that's going on right now in the world. It's kind of that great kind of political thriller of just through one person's POV perspective. Worth seeing on the big screen. It's out in cinemas right now. Go support Australian film. Go see The Correspondent. Producer M, we're going to get into Kriv's Combo. Kriv's Combo sounds so good.
I think we should make that a segment.
Yeah, Kriv's Combo.
It's really good.
We'll get his pick every time I get someone in. So we're going to get to Kriv's Combo of a new release, 2 weekly titles, and then a recommendation based on his taste from me. Kriv watches so many movies. He's a great Letterboxd follow as well. Put that in the show notes
really?
too.
I'm going to follow him.
Great Letterboxd follow. Put that in the show notes. Click on it. Go through. But if you want your own recommendation based on your taste, pop in to an Apple podcast review or Spotify comment, YouTube comment, wherever you're getting the podcast from, and give me your new release film, 2 all-time favorite weeklies, and I'll give you a recommendation. We got one in now. Who we got?
This is from Big Baba Booey Boy.
Big Baba Booey Boy?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Entitled An Alexei Sighting. So they say,
Oh my God.
after overhearing that beautiful, distinct voice behind me outside the Rhino Room in Adelaide.
Oh my God. Okay, Rhino Room in Adelaide, best place to perform.
Yeah.
Zach and I were doing our show Refuse Classification there. Every night was sold out. Adelaide audiences are awesome. So Baba Booey Boy, I love you already. I don't even know what else you're going to say, but I'm going to say I love you because you're part of one of the best weeks of my life.
Well, they said, I knew I had to finally get around to writing this review. Thank you, Alexei, for being the final bastion of Australian rental cinema.
Wow, I hope I'm not the final bastion. Hopefully there's a few more bastions after me.
Yeah, if you die before me, I take it on,
It's
but
true.
we're kind of the same age, so we're
No,
probably...
but I'm sure I'll die before you. I'm 100% sure that's going to happen.
So they say new release is Companion.
I still haven't seen it yet.
Yes, I've seen it. I really liked it.
Looks
I
like a lot of
really
fun.
liked it.
Yeah.
Weekly number 1, Palm Springs, which I quite liked too.
Oh, I love Palm Springs.
Yeah.
Andy Samberg, Kristen Milotti.
Yes, I do love
Kristen
both those
Milotti.
actors.
They're both, I'll say it, I think they're both beautiful.
I literally, they're
you know?
hotties, right? That was a really good
Yes.
match.
It's a really good match
Weekly-
for the viewer to find beauty and humour.
Weekly number 2, Under the Silver Lake.
Oh, I love
haven't
this
seen.
movie. This is like a modern noir film set in Hollywood. Andrew Garfield. It's kind of like Slacker Chinatown. I think
I'm
this
gonna watch
movie's
this.
so underrated.
Yeah.
From the director of It Follows as well.
Oh, okay. I'm definitely going to watch it.
People did not connect with this film.
I
think
kind of
it's
haven't heard of
so
it before,
good.
which is interesting considering the cast.
Yeah, people didn't give this one a chance.
Yeah.
Big Bubba Booey Boy, thank you for putting it on the list. I might recommend this movie to someone in the future, but I'm gonna give you jumping off Under the Silver Lake. Let's go another kind of like movie set noir film, but I'm going to Spain for this one. From my favorite director Pedro Almodovar, Bad Education. I think this is one of his best films. It stars Gael Garcia Bernal as an interesting character. I don't want to give too much away because I think this movie has so much great discovery in for you. And if you go in looking at it as a Hitchcockian noir, you'll get so much out of Bad Education. Thank you very much.
Interesting.
And also thanks for coming to see the show at Rhino Room. Refused Classification. We'll probably, when this episode's coming out, we'll be towards the end of our Melbourne Comedy Festival run with the show. We'll be doing Sydney, Perth and Brisbane after that. Me and Zach playing Margaret and David about one of the most important points ever in Australian film history. Check out the show. It's in the show notes. Buy tickets. Come see us. Adelaide was so awesome. I had the best time of my life there. I'm going to move to Adelaide. Anyway, let's get into the show with Kriv Stenders.
The last video store.
Well, Kriv, thank you for joining me inside the last video store.
It's great to be here.
It's my pleasure to have you in here, and now I'm going to ask you to take me on a journey. Take me back. Tell me about your favorite video store.
Well, I grew up in Brisbane in the 80s. I'm giving away my age there a little bit, but
Wow. I'll redact the year that you said.
no, it's fine. It's fine. Yeah, video stores. Look, as I said, I grew up in Brisbane, so it was Brisbane was a big country town back then. So anything cultural, anything interesting was really hard to find. So I would do basically a video store crawl across every suburb, north,
Wow.
south, east, west, because some video stores would have really great horror sections, some would have really great European art movie sections, and some would have really great Australian movie sections. So I was just always checking these places out, like on a weekly basis, trying to see what I could find. So you'd find, Night of the Living Dead in one, and Cars at 8 Paris in another, and Pierre Le Fou in another one. So it was always, there wasn't one central place I went to. Although there was one near, because I lived in a few places. There was one in Annerley I think it was called something banal like Videoland.
Of course.
And what it was, which was really quite weird and sad and ironic, was it was an old beautiful cinema.
Oh, wow.
And in Queensland, we didn't have fixed seats. We had these old cinemas had canvas chairs, like kind of deck chairs.
Yeah.
So they were just taken out, and it was just these videos
my
stands
God.
in this beautiful old cinema. So it was kind of a strange,
God, if it was
contrast.
a bloody modem hub for a server for a streaming service now, that would be the true evolution of cinema in Australia.
Yeah, it probably is. There probably is one somewhere.
That's amazing. I love picturing you as this cinema journeyman walking around with your little bindle around the city, picking up different tapes of different stores.
Yeah, it was a pastime. It was a hobby. It was a sport. It was the way to sort of navigate your way through that wasteland.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think of you as a true explorer. I look at your letterbox all the time. You're watching so many different things. You've got such great taste. I think so much of your that eclectic taste that you're talking about comes through in your work. So many of your films, you're jumping around genres, jumping around even what kind of audiences your films are going to. I mean, you're one of the very few directors I'd say in Australia that are prolific. You get to make lots of stuff.
Look, I mean, I just love films. I love cinema. I love movies. I love making them. To me, it's like food. I love all kinds of food. I love, Chinese food. I love, Italian. I love
Name one more type of
Vietnamese.
food. Okay, now I believe you. I believe you. He likes it all.
And so I really enjoy watching as much as possible. And I guess, at the same time, I also, even though I love making films, I also work in television and in documentary. And to me, it's like cross-training.
Yeah.
Sort of a bit of track and field, a bit of swimming, a bit of bicycle riding. It's all part of the same sort of fitness regime.
One thing I want to ask you about while we've got you in here is my brain has been so much in this place of like making this kind of live documentary about Margaret and David. So I've been reading a lot of their old transcripts and watching a lot of their old reviews, and they both give like this effusive review to Red Dog. They give 4.5 stars from David and 4 from Margaret. What does it feel like to have like had one of your films be so, basically called a modern classic by them straight away?
Well, it's great. It's wonderful. But one thing I've learned is that success is very mercurial, or that kind of acclaim is very, it's sort of momentary, because just as much as you can get a great review, the next one can be bad. And funnily enough, the very first review I got from David, I was so excited. I made a film called The Illustrated Family Doctor. This was way before I made Red Dog. And I'll never forget, I was so excited because he was going to interview me. And we were in the elevator on the way to the interview somewhere in the ABC building, and he said, "Oh, Kriv, by the way, I'm going to give your film a very bad review. I didn't like it. I just wanted to tell you that, ahead of time." And I went, "Oh, God," it just kind of really hit me. And then we did this interview, and it was so strange. And
How was the interview? Can you even remember
fine.
it, or was it a blackout moment?
It was a bit of a
after
blackout. And my son that same day, it was a weird day. My son, who was really young then, he was only about 2, he had a febrile convulsion that day as well, which is, I don't know if you're about febrile convulsions, but they're really horrible. He basically passed out and went blue and looked like he was dying.
Far out.
And because he had a fit, which is a temperature fit. That happened on the same day.
My
So
God.
I was like, by the end of the day, I went, oh my God, this is, you sort of project, you think what these interviews are going to be like. And it was a very strange day.
Wow.
But anyway, it was wonderful to get, after that, it was wonderful to get a glowing review from them.
Because it's kind of there's only a couple of years later they stopped doing that show. So it's just, I always remember it as being like, oh, that was one of the last big ones. The big Australian ones that they got to together.
And it's great to have been, a part of that, or have had that
And for him
experience.
to earn your trust back after destroying you moments, but like years before.
Well, as I say, there's death, taxes, and film reviews.
Well, let's get into a few other certainties of life then. We're going to talk about some of your favorite movies and style of video store rental combo. You're familiar with the show. We're going to send you out there. You're going to pick a new release, which may be a movie you've had something to do with. And then a couple of all-time favorites. Come back, we'll chat about them. And then the tough thing will be on me to explore out there in the store myself to find you a recommendation based on your taste. Hopefully something you've not seen before. Hopefully something to illuminate a different part of the world for you in some kind of way. But I think I'm actually stressed about this one. Whenever it's someone that I know has great taste in film and goes out and like finds great stuff, the sweat starts beating upon my brow straight away.
Oh, don't worry.
No. I am worried. No matter how nice you are, Kriv, I'm going to be worried about this one.
New release.
All right, Kriv, your new release film. We've got a new film from you, The Correspondent, directed by you. And this is a wonderful film that stars the great Richard Roxburgh, who absolutely Roxburgh in this film. And I wanted to kick things off talking about this as like a film based on factual events, the Peter Greste fiasco, I guess, if you will.
Drama.
Can you tell me about like where the genesis point is for you around this film?
It happened around about, it's a funny story actually. It happened around about 2020. I got a call from a producer called Carmel Travers who called me up out of the blue and said, "Hi Kriv, I was giving you a number. I hope it's okay if I call. And do you know anything about Peter Greste?" And I kind of went, "Yes, I do." In fact, I laughed. I went, "Why are you laughing?" And I said, "Well, I actually know Peter. I actually met, I think I knew him when I was a kid." And she went, "Oh my God," because, obviously the story was when it broke, I knew about it because our families know each other. I'm Latvian as well as Peter. So it was just a very strange coincidence that happened. And the minute she said the name Peter Gresson, she wanted to make a film about his story, I said, look, I'm on board. I didn't even have to read the script.
Yeah.
I said, look, that's an extraordinary story, because I remember when it broke, obviously, 10 years ago, it was big news amongst our families. So I followed it very closely. And it was just strange how these things happen. This phone call from Carmel asked me about it. So then I read Peter's script, and I knew Peter Duncan. We'd known each other for a few years, and I saw in the script just this fantastic potential, and we worked on the script for a few years, and never thinking it was going to happen. Like you always say yes to these projects, not knowing whether they're actually going to eventuate. But Carmel was like a dog with a bone. She was very persistent and a real raconteur, as all good producers are, and she managed to raise the finance, and we started shooting it last year.
I think there's an interesting point that I want to ask you about, actually, was, you share this Latvian heritage with Cresta. Didn't know that you guys knew each other kind of growing up, but how was it that, was there a way that your heritage kind of informed the portraiture of the character in the film?
I wouldn't say it really had that much influence. In fact, it probably didn't have any influence, really. I mean, only in that, it was just circumstantial that, the Latvian government gave Peter citizenship. And there is something in that. There is, Latvia is a very small country, and it really, like Estonia and Lithuania, and it's always tried to punch above its weight, and it's always had, Russia as this big malevolent presence. So I kind of related to it on that level, and that, having grown up a Latvian, you always do feel that like an underdog. And I guess that element was something that, I was aware of when reading the script and looking at the character, that, sometimes it was a kind of a David and Goliath story. And so I could relate to it on that level.
Yeah. Wow, that's great. I mean, I think that's just such a great lead performance by Roxburgh in this film as well. And can you kind of talk to me about, I guess, kind of developing a character with him that's based on a real person? Because I think in the past he's done such great jobs. Of course, comes to mind like his performance as Roger Rogerson in Blue Murder. I think he's very, very good at channeling real people. Can you talk about your collaboration with Roxburgh here?
I worked with Richard on a film I made previously, a film called Danger Close, The Battle of Long Tan. He played the Commander Jackson, and that was a great experience. He's like what I call a Rolls Royce. He just rolls in, parks really smoothly, takes off, negotiates a corner that just glides through the performance, and he was a pleasure to direct. And when the ideas for who to cast this film were coming, we were talking about who we're going to cast. Peter Duncan said, look, you should really think about Richard. And there was a certain point where I kind of went, well, yeah, of course, why not? Because he is such a great actor. And I just had faith in him that he would, because of his skills, because of his range, because of his bandwidth, I knew that he would not necessarily do an impersonation or an impression of Peter. He would just channel him. And we sat down and we had a few lunches and we talked about it. And I think he was very nervous about that thing about not wanting to do a direct kind of, as I said, an impersonation. I said, no. It's sort of very much. It's like instead of a photograph, it's a painting. So it's an interpretation. And it's not like Peter's super famous. It's not like he's
He doesn't have a certain a weird expression to go, okay, that's how you do it.
Yeah.
There's not this doesn't SNL impersonations of him or anything like that.
Exactly. So there was a lot of room to move.
Yeah.
And I just knew, just because, he's such a great actor, I knew he'd have the skill set and the toolkit to bring something to it. And that's really what casting is, or that's for me what directing is really 99% of it, as so many people have said, is casting. And once you've cast the actor, I really kind of leave it to them, and I'm just there to kind of help them and listen to them and just make sure it sounds and looks right.
And with a role like this and an actor like Richard Roxburgh, he really is like a great tone setter for an ensemble as well.
Yeah, well, he really, he's such a lovely guy. He's so down to earth. He's so easy to work with. And, he's very generous. And again, it looks effortless, but it is. But I know that there's just a lot of experience there. So the other actors, I think, loved his openness and his precision, you know, and that's a great thing to have. It's like, you know, it's like having a really great drummer in a band, you know, he just keeps the
the
beat.
rhythm.
And people can riff in and riff out of him. He's just rock solid. He's just this fantastic sort of bass that you've got all the time.
And I think that ensemble around him is just like so well made of like these great Arabic Australian actors. In particular, I thought Raul Rahman was just particularly fantastic in this film. Can you talk about like, I guess, directing the ensemble around him?
Yeah, well, again, it's casting. You know, it's the chemical combinations that you think about quite a lot before you actually cast someone. So you think about Richard, okay, then you think about this actor and you look at their stuff. You might even look at a few reads that they do or tests, and you sort of start to intuit the chemical, as I said, the sort of alchemical balance or the mixture that you're going to have. And I mean, I knew I wanted Rahel right from the very beginning because I worked with Rahel about 10 years ago on a show called The Principal.
Yeah.
And he was amazing
Yeah.
then. He was just a young actor. He just hadn't acted before, and we'd sort of...
I think that was the first time I saw him in anything as well.
Yeah, he's again, like Richard, like an incredible actor. Like I call him the Al Pacino of Australia. He
is that good. Like that's
He's
a
that
worthy
good.
thing to call him.
He's brilliant. So he was already, right from the very beginning, even before I thought of Richard, I'd always thought of Rahel for here. And then it was just trying to find the right, as I said, people that will complement Richard and complement Ra, and you know, it's just that process of you know, mixing colours and getting all the palette together and then having fun painting it.
I think like when you talk about like that mixing of the colors, one thing that really strikes me about that is I think this is a really great example of like perspective. Like this is like even the way you're describing like about painting rather than a photograph, this is kind of an expressive look through the eyes of Gresta as he's in this confinement. Can you kind of tell us about like that idea of perspective and that idea of even capturing confinement, like especially when you're painting with like these great lights coming through?
Yeah, well, kind of answer that in two ways. The thing about perspective, I think it's something I remember reading Polanski talking about. One of the first things he does when he thinks about a project or when he thinks about a film and about directing something, and I think this is particularly in the case of Chinatown, it's about, you've got to know the point of view of your story, or how as the director, what point of view are you going to be using? Now, I don't mean that literally, but I got it. I understood what he was going on about, because apparently even the first draft of Chinatown, it left Jake. It was going into other characters, and Polanski's first note was take that all of that out, and let's just make it all about Jake. Let's
What
make
he
every scene
knows,
about Jake.
yeah.
And the same thing actually happened with Peter and I on the script, in that, you know, the script was kind of a little bit of a different beast when I got it. And I said, no, look, let's really make this entirely about Peter, and let's see this entirely through Peter's eyes. So let's actually inform the script through that lens, and then that's also then gave me the mechanics through which to tell the story, because I thought, well, when you're arrested, you don't see much. All you see are literally what's in front of you, which is you're arrested, you're put into a office, you're taken to a van, you're put into another office, you're taken down a corridor, you're put into a cell. Everyone else sees everything. Everyone else sees the exterior of the prison. You don't, because you're inside
You're
it.
trapped there.
Yeah. So I thought, oh, right, that's the way to unlock this film. That's the way to do it. So it was that combination of making sure that every scene was told through Peter's point of view, and then also formalistically, I wanted to film it that way. So then, and I knew, obviously, again, you know, part of my job as a director is to reverse engineer. And that's what I love about filmmaking, is that you're always dealing with, you never have enough time.
The problem-solving aspect of filmmaking.
And I love that part
Yeah.
of it. I love a challenge, and I love a problem, and I love making the problem the virtue. To me, they're my favourite kinds of films, the films that embrace their limits and flip them and make them their strengths. So I knew once I knew that we were going to tell the story from Peter's point of view, and that I was going to film it from Peter's point of view, it became really fun, because then you're dealing with like, well, we don't have to worry about that, we don't have to worry about this, but we have to really make sure that this works, and that this is fucking great, and that we don't ever stray from the integrity of that quality of the point of view, which went all the way through the lighting, through the location choices, through to the wardrobe, and through to the sound. So it was always like, okay, this is our palette, these are our colours. Let's really stick to these, and let's make sure that every colour is as strong and as pure as it can be.
Wow, beautifully put. Beautifully put. I think it's like that also gives you so much access to, I guess, like playing with like the helplessness of that character, because he's trapped elsewhere. He doesn't know what's going on around him. It's not like a Gov Rust film where you're like seeing like the intricacies of like how it's all working out. He's very much trapped in his space. I think it's a great choice to be able to make that. To be making that the way that you see the film, that's the way you understand the film as an audience, is through his entire perspective.
Yeah, well, when we talked to Peter, when I met with Peter and we talked to him about it, he said it was like that. It was really confusing.
Yeah.
Even when he got, I hope this isn't a spoiler, because probably isn't, because people
it's real life
and
as
they
well.
know that he was released. But when he got released, he still couldn't work out why. And even to this day, they still can't work out exactly how the machinations led to his release. So it's very much that that subjective point of view that was informing everything.
Yeah. Wow. I want to ask you as well, because I think when it comes to making films based on factual events, there's either a very prescriptive way to make the film, or there's like artistic leeway in like developing kind of even the way you're showing and telling it. Were there any things that you experimented with or thought about that you didn't end up using to like kind of express the reality of this story?
I had a lot of grand plans about the flashbacks, that they weren't just going to be about the Mogadishu flashback, that it was going to be this kind of Terrence Malick-esque sort of poetry of trees and beaches. And so I was playing with that a lot.
Sense of escapism almost.
Yeah, because Peter did meditate, and he talked a lot about visualizing the beach, and putting himself in memories as a way to cope with. And I was going to get really tricky and do things like he looks through the cell window, and I was going to take a cell window to the beach and shoot through the cell windows onto the beach. And I was getting all these kind of
proper surrealistic.
Yeah, I was going to go all there, but again, thankfully, if I had the time and the money, I probably would have shot that stuff, and it probably would have ended on the editing room floor. But pretty quickly, once we got the schedule, we realised all that stuff had to go.
Yep.
And I realised, okay, no. Let's just make it totally about Mogadishu and Cairo. And then within that, I'll explore the sensory sort of that kind of flashbacky quality within that bandwidth, rather than going too far. But that's again the process of making a film. You always end up. What I like about it is it always ends up being quite minimal. And I believe that all the great films that I love really deal with that sort of with those sort of bold choices. And they stick to that and then embrace that. That's, I think, again, something that you start to learn as you make films. You go, well, you don't need much to do a lot.
Yeah. With a political story like this, what do you hope an audience will get from seeing this film, especially if they're not familiar with the story?
Well, I guess, it's a pretty prescient story. I mean, considering the times that we live in now, which are very confusing, and they're getting more and more confusing and confronting daily, And truth is, as I've getting older, I'm finding it harder and harder to work out, what to believe and what not to believe. And therefore, I think proper traditional journalism and the kind that Peter, that tradition that he was part of is very important. It's very important to remind people that truth protection and truth telling is sort of a tenet of democracy, and it's like a pillar of our society, of civilization. If we don't have it, if we start to remove it, then we're in trouble. Then we're in Orwellian times. Once those sorts of that function or that role of a journalist is diluted and removed, then we're in scary times, and that's what we're in now. And I think the film is just, a reminder of what's at stake, and what these guys and girls and women, guys and ladies put themselves
guys
through.
And dolls.
Guys, the whole spectrum, whatever they put themselves through.
Yeah,
it's a sacrifice, and it's a very dangerous profession. And in fact, the UN have labelled it the most dangerous profession in the world right now. So I think it's a timely reminder of how important that kind of journalism is.
Being on the ground, being immersed in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, beautifully put. I think it is out now. I'm trying to do the math of when this will be
It'll
out.
be out on April 17th.
It'll be when this is released, the film is out right now.
Okay.
So go see The Correspondent in cinemas.
Weekly.
We're going to continue this talk by talking about two other films you've selected, two favorites of yours. And these are two Australian films I consider to be absolutely really, really up there. Should we begin with the film by Shirley Barrett?
Sure.
Well, this film we've got here, this is, I would say, introducing this film, more than any other film, has been the one that I've been trying to get away to talk about on this show. So when I saw you picking this one up, I just lifted with how excited I was to be able to talk to you about this. Because this was a film that I discovered while at film school at Afters, your alma mater as well. And it was just one of those films that I could not believe, one, I hadn't heard of at that time. This is 10 years ago now. Two, existed at all, because it just feels like such a film so deeply far ahead of its time. This is a movie called Love, Serenade from 1996.
Cult.
Can you tell me about this film? Why is this the film that you want to bring up today?
Well, both films, to me, I have very personal connections to. They're very, for me, very personally important films. Love, Serenade is one of my favourite films ever. I went to film school with Shirley.
Yeah.
I was a clap loader on her short film Cherith.
Oh, wow.
I actually had a huge crush on her.
Wow.
I was a 21-year-old at film school, and there was this mad, fantastic girl, this great... Shirley was just wonderful. And I remember her because she was in a band called the Fruit Pastilles.
Oh, my... What a great band.
And if you look it up on YouTube, she was on Countdown. It's insane, this song called I Never Want to See Your Face Again.
Oh, my God. Was this while she was at Afters as well?
No, I
at
think it was
film
just
school?
before, because she's a Melbourne girl.
Yeah.
And so I just loved her. She was so much fun. And so it was in my first year at film school, and her and the crew were so welcoming, and it was just a lovely shoot. And, we sort of kind of stayed friends, or we were sort of acquaintances. And then when she made Love, Serenade, I was just so excited to go and see it, because she'd also won the Camera d'Or at Cannes, which is the debut award.
short film.
So I went to see it, and it blew me away.
Yeah.
It blew me away, and I watched it again last night, actually.
Oh, wow.
Preparation for this, and I've watched it probably about 20 times, and every time I watch it, I just love it. I just laugh. It's beautifully crafted. It's shot by Mandy Walker, edited by Denise Haratzis, who edited my first film, The Illustrated Family Doctor, and the production designer is Stephen Evan Jones, who's a great production designer, one of our greats. Did Romper Stomper, and he's done so many amazing films. And it's this beautiful combination of elements. Like, every person in that film is contributing to Shirley's vision, which is completely unique. And I find the film so dark. It's like this weird post-feminist dark fable.
Yeah.
And Miranda Otto gives probably one of the most incredibly precise comedic performances I've ever seen. She's just absolutely incredible in this film. She's just wonderful. And the film is so unique, so bizarre, so original, that, as you said, it's way ahead of its time.
Yeah.
And it's still so vital and fresh and alive. I just love it.
I remember seeing it for the first time, and we had to do regular essays about movies that we were discovering at film school at the time, and seeing this one instantly going, this is the one that I need to write about, because like you, Australian cinema is the thing that I care about most. And this felt like such I could not believe that I'd never heard of it. I could not believe that it even existed, because it does feel like, not just ahead of its time, it feels like the kind of movies that were being made in American independent cinema 10 years later. I'm talking about stuff like Juno, those kind of comedy dramas with their own unique personality, their own unique voice, and their own touches of surrealism. But I think this film has the most unique personality of, for those unfamiliar, to set out in the rural Australia, but not quite the bush or anything, just a small kind of crappy town.
Sunray.
A bit suburban, this kind of, it's shot so beautifully, so gorgeously, and production design just so wonderfully. And it's about these two sisters, that are a little bit odd. There's no parents in sight. These old, like, young adult sisters. And then moving in next door to them is this kind of cool, yet sleazy, yet reptilian, yet more likely amphibian radio jockey.
Ken
moves in.
Sherry.
Ken Sherry
From Brisbane.
From Brisbane. He's moving from Brisbane to the Small Smoke to work at this tiny, like, one studio radio station that they've got. And everything I've just described is designed beautifully.
Yeah, and it's the
feels
crummiest,
so
most
powerful.
disgusting radio station with all these this old equipment and
Oh
covered
my
with dust.
God. And it's like perfectly retro and vintage, and
Yeah.
like as is that character.
Oh, George Shetstoff is just
He's amazing in this
oh,
movie.
what a face! That nose and that
face.
profile and that voice.
And he's got this great voice, yet the perfect use of it is he almost says nothing throughout the whole movie. Just these select moments where he speaks up. It just is such a well-calibrated personality this film has. And I think it's one of the great films that captures like that rural, suburban Australiana just like bang on.
And the key to it, what I realised, again, I've watched this film so many times, I realised last night, oh my God, there's no score. The only score is this incredible choice of those Barry
White songs.
and also all those other sort of the hustle,
Yeah.
these great kind of weird 70s tracks that you've grown up listening
Yeah.
to, but they're just they just create this incredible mood.
It's like these daggy disco hits.
Do the hustle.
Exactly. And it just works so well. It works so
Perfect.
well.
And she repeats them, and
Yeah.
they're brilliant. And every time they're played again, they have this other layer of meaning and dread and portent. And it's just masterful the way
Yeah.
those tracks are used.
And it's also that, like you were saying, that incredible, like, live wire, that precision of Miranda Otto's performance of playing someone who's got some kind of stunted arrested development in, like, she's never really grown up, but she's also not a kid and has not had much life experience at all. Just the way that she's able to play that for comedy, but she never goes into the realm of sketch comedy. She never makes that character broad. It's always real.
It's a breathtaking performance. There's one scene I remember from last night again where he's seducing her on the couch in the morning.
Yeah.
And she takes off her T-shirt and she's there in her little slip and she's on the edge of the leather couch. Yeah. And the way she kind of squirms over to him, it's just so creepy and so disturbing, but also so funny.
It's so funny.
It's so dark. I mean, Shirley was a really, unfortunately, she's no longer with us. She passed away a few years ago. But she was a really unique original voice.
Yeah.
And I really miss her. I really miss her, which is why, I selected the film.
I mean, such a great pick. And I remember Shirley Barrow wrote this great article before she passed away that's just so moving. I think it's either Guardian or Sydney Morning Herald. I'll put it in the show notes. So if you want to read that, click on through because I think it's just so beautiful. But all her other films like South Solitary,
great,
beautiful film. Walk the Talk is such a cool, weird, like slice of Brisbane. Oh, not Brisbane, Sunshine Coast. Gold Coast.
Yeah,
that's
Sasha
another film
Hawler,
I want to bring up on this podcast as well quite a few times. But I think she's just like no one was really doing it the way that she ever did. And I think that for young filmmakers in Australia, she's just someone that I think is a treasure trove waiting to be opened.
Yeah, she's really inspiring because she's for me, she's inspiring because she's real proof that just be yourself, be bold and have your vision and stick to it. I mean, again, watching it again last night, I realized it's actually a horror movie.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget the first time I saw the film, I kind of went, the conceit of Ken Sherry being a fish. I kind of went, I don't think that worked. But then in subsequent viewings, I've gone, no, it's fantastic because it is so bold. It's so out
weird,
there.
yeah.
It's so weird. And the film, you realise all the characters are dark and disturbed and twisted. I mean, Vicky Ann is actually probably the most disturbed because she's so deluded. The way she kind of says, he ate my chicken casserole last night, which is a blatant lie.
Yeah.
And then, when she says, we're gonna get married, it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
What's going on? It's such a perversely funny film.
And it's those touches of like surrealist magic realism that give it this unique personality. Like there's nothing quite like this kind of, the closest I would get to going a movie that's totally like this, I've never thought of this before, but like the Uncle Boon Me who can recall his past lives.
Yeah, right.
There's something about that where I go, this would be a great double bill. I mean, that's a long movie. You don't need to double bill it with things. But I think there's something in like the kind of folklore take on surrealism in that film that applies to like this weird surrealism that bursts out of like a comedic look of like suburban rural Australia. Yeah. The other thing that this film does better than anything else is showing you what the Chinese takeaway restaurant looks like in a town like this. Like, it's just great. One guy in the kitchen.
Albert.
And then Miranda Otto works there as well. That is just so perfectly done.
Yeah, and that beautiful moment when for some reason, he just breaks into Wichita Lineman.
Oh my God.
And such a beautiful performance by John Allen. John Allen Alan Sue?
Let me look it up for
Alan
you.
Sue, great performance. I haven't seen him in anything since.
Yeah, John Allen Sue.
Alan Sue, yeah.
Yeah, not familiar with him either. He's in Erskineville Kings.
Yeah.
That's the only other thing that's coming up. And, oh, wow. He's in...
he hasn't been in anything for a long time.
In Stark by Nadia Tass. The Ben Elton thing.
Yeah.
I forgot that existed.
Yeah.
Wow.
Beef and black bean sauce.
Yeah, God, he's great in this movie. But I'm going to say this is one of the best pickups anyone's ever made on the show. Love Serenade, one of the great films of Australian cinema that I think more people should see. I'm probably going to bring it up again soon, mate. I'm probably going to go, yeah, it's a recommendation. It's just me on the show, but I want everyone to see this movie. The next one we've got is another cult Australian film from director Richard Lowenstein. This is Dogs in Space.
Cult.
Yeah, again, for me, personally, very meaningful film. It has a lot of people in it that I know, a lot of them who aren't with us anymore as well. My dear friend Troy Davies, who plays the Sharpie at the beginning of the film and was the makeup artist, and he also has another role in the film as well as the brother of the daughter, or the brother of the sister that they take to Lucio, who's one of the members of this huge household. But I love this film for so many reasons, on so many levels. It came out in 1986, the year I started film school, and it was so electrifying to see a film about my experience about Australia, but on the big screen by a director that was, I guess, my generation.
Yeah.
And Richard Lowenstein was a huge, huge influence and inspiration for me. He was this guy who was making music videos, and he made this. It was kind of a meta film even before meta existed. And it was a film about his own time living in the shed house in Melbourne, only about, say, 6 years prior.
Yeah.
So it was set in 78, 79.
It's like this weird period piece that's just like 5 years before the film comes out.
Yeah, and that, I understand why he made it that period, because that was still, I remember the late 70s from being in Brisbane, but it was that strange time when punk had started, but the hippie movement was still there, and there was activism. So there was all these subcultures all kind of crossing over.
Yeah.
And the film is it's a really odd film. It has no plot that you can really kind of tack onto it. The film doesn't really work, really, when you actually start to kind of look at individual scenes, but it's greater than some of its parts.
Absolutely.
And it's a really interesting artifact, firstly as looking back at it now, but as a film, I think it's brilliant. It's just this, it has this sense of really what it's like to be young. And it really captures that rolling idea of like parties, gigs, waking up hungover, mad things that happen during the day. I mean, having lived in shared houses and been in shared houses, it just captures the madness of a shared house to a T. It's just perfect. Just all those crazy, that constant sort of traffic of people coming in and out, the light, that particularly that sort of Melbourne winter or that summer light that's filtered through dope smoke, pot smoke, and just the grime and the layers of dirt and beer cans and detritus, the posters, the peeling posters on the wall. Like every frame is a riot of colour and texture. And the way the camera moves through this film is unbelievable.
It's like second to none, the way, because it's like this floating camera that kind of captures more than any other film. And like you said, because it's a plotless film, there's not really a POV character for us.
Apart
to be
from
going
the
to.
girl,
You get little glimpses of her,
Yeah.
and even the glimpses you get of her, they're surrealistic. Like they're not in reality. Like you go beyond with her, but it's like the most part. This camera floats through like an omnipresent being. It almost feels like you're the ghost of this share house, seeing things happen, and because of it's like this omnipresent feeling of that camera, it feels so observational.
Yeah.
And it's such a great choice because you never know who actually lives in this home. Like you kind of go, I guess someone will sleep in that room often. But you just go, it feels like this transient space. I like you said, that camera, there's nothing like it.
And it's perfectly choreographed. The camera, the two camera operators on that film, the Steadicam operator was a guy called Ian Jones, who I've worked with a few times. And then the other operator is a guy called Paul Elliott, who gave me my first gig.
Wow.
He set up a company in the late 80s called the Blast Furnace. And when I left film school, I started making music videos for him. So that film is just populated by all these people that I know and who've Mandy Walker was the clap loader on it.
Yeah.
Stephen Evan Jones was the props buyer on it. As I said, my friend Troy Davies was the makeup artist. He acts in it. And I subsequently got to know a lot of the cast. Peter Walsh, who's also passed away, who plays the dope smoking, just gentle soul, who's always just talking to anyone who wants to talk to him. The film is so beautiful. I find it really moving every time I watch it. There's this melancholia that I get watching it, but it's kind of a bittersweet quality. But again, mostly it's the feeling. I always remember that feeling when it came out. Like even the opening, with that, the amazing, that shot of Troy going, "Hey, show us the snatch!" And then the car zooming off going, "What is this?" And then
It's like such a big burst of energy. Then the movie kind of like is quite somber in this interesting way.
Yeah, and it just kind of rolls along.
Yeah.
And but it really captures that sensory, audio, visual, sensory world that was that time. And it's like a time machine. Every time I watch that film, I feel like I'm really stepping back in time. And every time I go to Melbourne, I always pay homage.
You go to the house?
I go to Berry Street and I look at the house.
Wow.
And that house, they should have a plaque on it,
Yeah.
like saying this is the site of this amazing period in history.
Leave a burnt out spliff just on the
And
doorstep.
there is still a little. I think there were a few years ago. There was still the sort of you could just see the dogs in space spray painted on the bitumen. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And there's so
Heritage
many.
listed. It should be.
Sorry.
It should be heritage listed.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
It should be. I mean, who knows? I don't know. I'm sure. Hopefully, the people who live there who own the house now know its history.
Yeah.
Because it's a very rich history.
Hopefully, some young TikTok stars living the same kind of lifestyle in there.
Yeah, well, again, I don't know whether the film's meaningful for me because it is from my generation. But as a I'm a big, as you said, you are too. I'm a big lover, a passionate lover of Australian film, and that film was part of an era of there was some really exciting films coming out, and really exciting filmmakers. There's another film that I almost chose, but I didn't, which was Ghost of the Civil Dead.
Oh,
Came out
great
around-
film. Yeah.
Amazing film, amazing. But this was like, as a young film student, seeing these people make these films, like, and Richard Lowenstein as well made it with this collective of people who he's still working with, like Limery Milburn, who's an animator, and she sort of collaborates visually a lot, along with Andrew de Groot, the DOP. They're still working together, and they've
And
always
he made
been
that great documentary about Michael Hutchence, who's a star of this film as
yeah,
well.
Yeah. And there's so many people in the film that I know, like Michelle Bennett's in the film.
Yeah.
She plays the gorgeous girl that the hippie
Yeah.
is seeing off in the morning. And, Michelle's obviously the producer of Chopper. And, I just watched that film and it's a very special gift for me
Yeah.
every time I watch it.
And you see the seedlings of so many more great Australian films as well that come
Yeah.
from it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a beautiful film. Another one. 2 for 2, mate. 2 of the greatest picks ever on this podcast. More people picking more Australian movies on here, in my opinion. But thank you so much for bringing Dogs in Space. Love Serenade.
Staff pick.
Now it's on to me to talk to you about a film. I want to go punk as well. I want to go in that punk space for you. And especially with Love Serenade and Dogs in Space, and so much of your work as a music video director, I want to find something where I think it was essential of vision meeting music as well. Really want to find something in that space. So I am not a punk guy, but I love films about punks. Like, they're some of my favorite films. I've even got a little something here. I'll show it to you. But I was really want to like do something in that punk space. Kept on thinking about Penelope Spheris, who's one of my favorite directors. But I'm like, okay, Kriv's definitely seen some Penelope Spheris. Don't go there. So there was a film that I just remembered, and I just dawned on me. I thought this might be good because it was basically unable to be seen for like 40 years. So maybe that's how you might not have seen it. It might be a good way to put it back onto your radar.
Great.
But it's a film directed by Dennis Hopper in 1980 called Out of the Blue. Have you heard of this?
Yes, I have.
Have you seen it though?
You know what? I haven't.
Cult.
Oh, thank goodness.
I haven't seen it,
Thank
but I know
goodness.
this film very, very well.
Yeah.
Because there's an image of this film of Linda Mance. That's Lindy Morrison from the Go-Betweens wears. She's
Yes.
got a T-shirt, which is they call it Tallulah.
Yeah.
She calls it Tallulah, and it's in this film.
Oh my God! So I picked an even better choice. I didn't know there was this Go-Betweens collection. You've
Yeah.
directed lots of their videos, documentaries.
Yeah, well, this is a great choice.
Wow!
Great
Wow!
choice.
Wow!
Perfect.
Okay, God.
I've seen scenes from it. I've seen
Yeah.
it, but I've never seen the whole film. And Linda Mance is just unbelievable. I love her.
So this is a great like coming of age film. It's about Linda Mance, this great like I think her performance in this as CB is like one of the great young performers ever, like one of the great child performances. So coming of age film set in like this kind of developing gutter punk world. She's an Elvis fan, but she's also into like all this kind of punk stuff as well. And I'm going to read you what is written about this film in this new restored version, because I think the way that it opens with like this big black bold text is so interesting, especially from a discovery point. Dennis Hopper was hired only to act in a Canadian movie then called CB. Unhappy with the footage, the producers fired the original writer-director and planned to shut down production. Dennis Hopper seized the opportunity to rewrite over the weekend, tailoring the script to Linda Manz's personality and her talents, including her fascination with punk music. His old friend Neil Young's My Hey Hey Out of the Blue playing on the radio inspired the movie's theme, literally and then figuratively. The movie, that Monday, production began again from scratch, with Dennis Hopper now at the helm. What started as a conventional family-friendly drama of a troubled girl's rescue by a well-meaning shrink became something else entirely. And I think this is like, to me, this was one of those movies where you feel the power of that coming of age, where you go, I feel how I felt when I was a teenager, when I'm struggling with how to even feel, how to even like grasp onto like new human emotions and stuff. And that angst, that punk is so good at like getting that rebellious feeling out. And it's just mesmerizing. And to me, it's like one of those great masterpiece of collaboration. And Hopper said that he's not a collaborator because when he's in charge of film, it's all him. He doesn't take no, doesn't take anything. But the only people he collaborates are with his actors. And he talks, and I think just seeing this collaboration between him and Linda Mance, you're like, oh, that's true collaboration. Like what they're doing here, playing daughter and father, or daughter and like, you know, Dennis Hopper style father.
Yeah.
Like you see so much power in that. Just, I don't know, this is just one of those films that just like, as soon as I saw it, I was like, this is a masterpiece. Maybe my favorite Dennis Hopper film.
Really?
Maybe.
Because he's made some good ones.
Certainly has made some like truly iconic ones. I think this and Easy Rider make an interesting pairing. Like, what's this, like 11 years later between the two of them?
Yeah, so this is 1980. So this would have been Linda Mance's second film after Days of Heaven?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Because Days of Heaven is late 70s, right?
I think 78.
Yeah.
78. And so wow.
She's
And
like
I
the
love that
creative
story. I love the
force.
origin
Isn't
story.
that cool?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love hearing stuff like
I
that.
think you'll really dig this one. It's been recently unearthed, very beautifully so. It played, I think, South by Southwest in 2020. And I think it played Venice in 2019. So it's kind of like
It's been
rediscovered, being put back out there in the world. But that is Out of the Blue. Kriv, thank you so much for joining us here on The Last Video Store.
Thank you.
Pleasure to have you in. Felt like a long time coming, so it's great to get you in here.
I just want to say, Alexei, I love this show. I love what you do. I mean, filmmaking is, being a film director, sometimes quite a solitary existence, and I love your show because I feel like I'm listening into friends and hearing a community talk about film and about their passion, and I find it a very inspiring. So, because filmmaking's hard, and I listen to your show once a week when I'm cleaning the house.
Wow, thank goodness!
And it really energizes me. It really gets me. Oh, that's why I'm doing this. That's why just hearing other people talk about film just as passionately as you do is it's a real. Yeah, it's a great charge. So
Oh my gosh.
You're doing a great thing.
To be called a great charge, my dream come true. Kriv, thank you so much. The Correspondent is out in cinemas now. Check it out. Go see it. Go see it on the big screen as well, because you've got this very immersive camera work in there that I think will play beautifully in that darkened space, in that glowing obelisk in front of you at the big screen. But thanks so much, Kriv. You're the best, dude.
Thanks, Alexei. Thank you.
The last video store.
Well, thank you to Kriv Stenders for also just saying really nice things about me in the show. That was very sweet of him. But click on through the show notes to get links to the letterbox. Follow us on Instagram at This Is Alexei for me, at Last Video Store Batuta for the show. We're putting up so many clips of this. If you want to see what Kriv and I look like hanging out, click on through and watch those clips. But thank you for following us. Tell your friends about the show and share it with all your film-loving friends and friends that you think need that little extra push into the world of cinema.
If it's good enough for Kriv, it's good enough for
I
anyone.
know, come on. We got Australia's most prolific filmmaker listening to this every week doing his chores, you know?
What's your friend's excuse?
Exactly.
Sorry, guys.
Sorry, we didn't mean to go so
Sorry,
hard
that
on
was
you,
too
but
mean.
share the show.